Question. So, ovulation occur under the influence of options: luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen and progesterone. So, dear students, first look into the definition for the ovulation. So, here ovulation refers to the releasing of the ovum from the mature Graafian follicle. So, this is purely under the influence of hormones. So, for this process, the LH, that means luteinizing hormone, is very essential. So, here we have to understand what is luteinization and what is ovulation. So, here luteinization refers to the rupturing of the layers, that means granulosa layers which are present in the mature Graafian follicle. So, after the rupturing of the granulosa layers only, the secondary oocyte is released from the mature Graafian follicle. So, as a result, for this purpose, the luteinization hormone is very important, and that process is called as luteinization, and after the luteinization, the releasing of the ovum takes place from the mature Graafian follicle, and that is called as ovulation. So, if you come to the FSH is also a hormone which is responsible for the growth of the follicles, that is from primary Graafian follicle to secondary Graafian follicle and secondary Graafian follicle to the mature Graafian follicle. So, that is the function of FSH hormone. And come to the option C, that is estrogen, and you know that it is a female sex hormone, and this hormone is responsible for the maintenance of secondary sexual characteristics in case of females. And you know that, and this hormone is particularly secreted by the placenta itself. Then come to the last option, that is the progesterone, and you know that it is commonly called as the pregnancy maintaining hormone, and this hormone is secreted by the corpus luteum, that is after the ovulation, whatever the structure which is left behind, that is called as corpus luteum or yellow follicle. From the yellow follicle, a hormone is going to release, that is called as the progesterone, and this progesterone is very essential for the maintenance of the pregnancy. So, for this question, the right option is, that is option A, luteinizing hormone. The ovulation occurs under the influence of luteinizing hormone. So, mature Graafian follicle is generally present in the ovary of a healthy female around about. So, here options: 5 to 8 days of menstrual cycle, 11 to 17 days of menstrual cycle, 18 to 23 days of menstrual cycle, 24 to 28 days of menstrual cycle. So, dear student, in order to answer this question, so first we have to understand the complete menstrual cycle. So, you know that particularly in case of human females, the one reproductive cycle, that is menstrual cycle, that get completed in 28 days. That 28 days period is divided into 4 phases. That, as you know that, the first phase is called as menstrual phase, the second phase is called as follicular phase, the third phase is called as ovulation or ovulatory phase, and the fourth phase is called as the luteal phase. So, if you take the first phase, that is menstrual phase, so in the menstrual phase what happens? The rupturing of the endometrium takes place, as well as along with this, whatever the unfertilized the ovum is present, along with the little amount of blood is oozes out. So, for that reason, that phase is called as menstrual phase. So, this phase in that cycle is lost for about 1 to 5th day. Then coming to the second phase of the menstrual cycle, that is called as follicular phase. The after shedding of the endometrium of the uterus, to continue the next cycle, so particularly inside the ovary, the development of the follicle takes place, that is by the influence of follicular stimulating hormone. Hence, that phase, that is follicular phase, is called as follicular phase. So, particularly in this phase, the development of the Graafian follicle takes place, that is from primary Graafian follicle to the mature Graafian follicle. Then coming to the third phase, that is called as ovulatory phase. So, this ovulatory phase is occur particularly exactly at the middle of the menstrual cycle, that is in the 14th day. So, as I discussed in the previous question, that is ovulation. During ovulation, what happens? The releasing of the ovum takes place from the Graafian follicle, that is called as ovulatory phase. Then come to the fourth phase, that is called as luteal phase. So, in the luteal phase, what happens? After releasing of the secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle, so the structure which is left behind, that is called as corpus luteum, and that corpus luteum start to produce the progesterone hormone. If the fertilization takes place, the secretion of the progesterone hormone continues in order to maintain the pregnancy. If there is no fertilization process, the degeneration of the corpus luteum takes place and the next cycle begins. So, particularly here, so if you look into the menstrual cycle in case of female, the viability period of the ovum, it is usually from 11th to 17th days, because the period in female, it is varies. So, in some females, the ovulation occur for 11th day or 12th day or 13th day, and it may extend up to the 17th day. So, as a result, so for this question, the right option is, that is B, 11th to 17th day of menstrual cycle. So, moving to the next question. So, in human females, the ovarian cycle begins when the options: level of estrogen reaches the maximum, hypothalamus stimulate the anterior pituitary to increase its output of FSH and LH. Option C, level of progesterone drops. Option D, hypothalamus increases its secretion of FSH and LH. So, dear students, ನೀವು ಇಂದಿನ ಸ್ಲೈಡನ್ನ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ನಾನು ಇಂದಿನ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂದಿನ ಸ್ಲೈಡಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನ್ಸ್ಗಳ ಕೆಲಸನ. ಸೊ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಲುಕ್ ಅಟ್ ಹಿಯರ್, ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಈಸ್ಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ರೀಚಸ್ ದ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ಐ ಸೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್, estrogen and progesterone are antagonistic to the FSH and LH. But compared to the estrogen, the progesterone which play a very significant role. So, as a result, to begin the next cycle, so estrogen hormones does not play any role. Then come to the option B, that is hypothalamus stimulate the anterior pituitary. Of course, I said to secrete the FSH and LH, hypothalamus must stimulate the anterior pituitary. That is to increase its output of FSH and LH. That is wrong. So, hypothalamus is not directly involved in the secretion of any hormone, but it is involved in the stimulation of anterior pituitary. As a result, so for this question, option B is also wrong. Then come to the option C, the level of progesterone drops. Yes, the progesterone hormone is very important because the secretion of FSH and LH by the anterior pituitary is suppressed by progesterone hormone, that is when it increases. And when this progesterone hormone drops, so simultaneously what happens? Hypothalamus stimulate the anterior pituitary. As a result, what happens? The FSH and LH hormone secretion increases. And if you look into the fourth option, that is hypothalamus increases its secretion of FSH and LH. So, as I said, hypothalamus is not directly involved in the secretion of any hormones. As a result, so for this question, the right option is, that is when the level of progesterone in the blood drops, so hypothalamus stimulate the anterior pituitary to secrete FSH and LH. So, for that reason, so for this question, the right option is when the level of progesterone drops, that is option C. So, 5 oogonia yield 10 primary oocytes, then how many ova are produced on completion of oogenesis? So, dear students, to solve this problem, first you must know what are the differences between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So, as you already know that, so during spermatogenesis what happens? A spermatogonium, it is a diploid cell. When the growth occurs, it becomes a primary spermatocyte. A primary spermatocyte undergoes first meiotic cell division to form 2 secondary spermatocytes. That means the secondary spermatocyte is in haploid condition. That means from a single primary oocyte or the single primary spermatocyte, 2 secondary spermatocytes are going to produce through first meiotic cell division. Then both the secondary spermatocyte undergoes second meiotic cell division to form 4 spermatids. So, this clearly indicates that when a single spermatogonial cell undergoes first and second meiotic cell division, finally 4 haploid spermatozoans are going to produce. So, this is the situation in case of spermatogenesis. But when you come to the oogenesis process, it is slightly different. So, when a single oogonial cell, which is diploid, when it undergoes a growth stage, it becomes a primary oogonium. So, this primary oogonium undergoes first meiotic cell division to form 2 unequal sized cells. So, in that, one is called as secondary oocyte and the second one is called as polar body. So, if you see the size of the secondary oocyte, it is usually bigger than the polar body. So, this is not seen in the spermatogenesis process. Then what happens? So, secondary oocyte undergoes second meiotic cell division and simultaneously the polar body also undergoes second meiotic cell division. But when the secondary oocyte undergoes a second meiotic cell division, again the 2 unequal sided cells are going to produce. One becomes ovum and the second one becomes polar body. Simultaneously, the polar body also undergoes second meiotic cell division to form 2 polar bodies. That means this clearly indicates that when a single oogonial cell undergoes meiotic cell division, instead of forming 4 ovum or 4 ova, it produces only 1 functional ovum. As a result, so look into this question, 5 oogonia yield 10 primary oocyte. Then how many ova are produced on completion of oogenesis? That should be 5. Because when 5 oogonial cell undergoes first and meiotic cell division, 20 cells are going to form, 20 haploid cells are going to form. Out of the 20 haploid cells, the 15 will be polar bodies, only the 5 will be the ovum. So, as a result, for this question, the right option is A, that is 5 ovum are going to form, or 5 ova are going to form. So, moving to the next question, gonadotropic releasing hormones secreted from the hypothalamus mainly stimulate the release of, options are thyroxine from the thyroid gland, antidiuretic hormone ADH from anterior pituitary, follicular stimulating hormone LH from the anterior pituitary, aldosterone from the adrenals. So, dear students, if you look into the pituitary gland of the human, as I said, it is made up of two lobes, that is anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. Above both the lobes, you can find a master of endocrine gland that is called as hypothalamus. So, particularly here, the hypothalamus which stimulates both anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. So, once the anterior pituitary, it is also called as adenohypophysis, get stimulated by the hypothalamus, out of 6 hormones, that is, one is called as gonadotropic releasing hormone. The name itself suggesting that gonadotropic releasing hormone, that means it stimulates the releasing of the hormones which is responsible for the growth and development of the gonads. Hence, it is called as gonadotropin releasing hormone. So, for the development of the gonads, for the spermatogenesis and the oogenesis process, the hormone which is mainly required is, as I said earlier, that is FSH and LH hormone. So, the releasing of the FSH and LH hormone from the anterior pituitary, it is mainly under the control of the gonadotropic releasing hormone. So, now here if you look into the options, that is option A, thyroxine from the thyroid gland, that is entirely different hormone, that is thyroxine, that is get secreted by the thyroid gland. It is not a gonad. ADH from the pituitary, ADH, antidiuretic hormone, or it is also called as vasopressin. It is responsible for the reabsorption of the water in the kidney. So, here the kidney is also not a gonad. Then coming to the fourth option, that is aldosterone from the adrenals. You know that adrenal gland, a triangular shaped gland which is situated just above the kidney, or it is also called as suprarenal gland. It is also not a gonad. So, here if you look into the option C, that is FSH and LH, as I said earlier, so this hormone is mainly responsible for the growth and development as well as the gametogenesis process that is takes place in the gonads. So, as a result, so for this question, the right option is, that is C, that is FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary. So, here you have to remember one more thing. So, option B, that is ADH, antidiuretic hormone, it is get secreted from the neurohypophysis. So, you know that the neurohypophysis secretes two hormones, that is one is called as ADH and another one is called as oxytocin. So, this oxytocin is very, very important, that is particularly for the females, that is at the time of parturition or at the time of delivery, because that oxytocin hormone is involved in the rhythmic contraction of the uterus. That rhythmic contraction of the uterus repels the baby that is in the uterus. So, here the correct option is C. So, moving to the next question, what is the site of fertilization in human females? So, look into the options, options A, cervix, isthmus, ampulla, fimbriae. So, dear students, again look into the structure of the longitudinal section of the human female reproductive system. If you look into that, particularly the fallopian tube, or it is also called as oviduct, it consists of 4 parts. The first beginning part, just it looks like a finger like projections, that is called as fimbriae, and that fimbriae which is very close to the ovary, that is to receive the released ovum from the ovary. That is the first part of the fallopian tube. Then followed by, that is called as ampulla and isthmus. So particularly here in this question there is a bit confusion. So in some ways they says that the fertilization process takes place at the junction of isthmus as well as ampulla, and somewhere it is mentioned as ampulla region. So but in the question, if they given in the option isthmus junction and ampulla, and if they separately given ampulla, then the option goes to the junction between the isthmus and ampulla. But here that option is not given. So as a result, for this question the right answer will be ampulla, because in most of the cases the fertilization process in human females takes place in the ampulla region. So dear students, so you have to remember, if in the option together, if they given junction of isthmus and ampulla, the option will be that one. If they separately given ampulla, if there is no junction of isthmus and ampulla, then the option becomes ampulla. So here the junction of isthmus and ampulla is not given. As a result, for this question the correct option is ampulla. So ampulla is the site of fertilization in human fallopian tube.